that we have empirical proof. Organizations that adopt DevOps best practices absolutely out-innovate teams that don't. And not just by a little bit, but by a lot. And this is why Tier 1 traders needs to adopt DevOps best practices. But it's not easy to do right. In order to really adopt DevOps best practices, you have to address all three of these pillars: the people, the process, and the products. Now, people, that's a cultural change that has to occur within your organization, where every person from the very, very top all the way down to the bottom must be hyper-focused and aligned on continuously delivering value. For the process, we need a process that will let us iterate fast enough, yet still deliver code of high enough quality. Now, finally, we need products that can help enable all of this. And at Tailwind Traders, they've got the people and the culture down, right? Everyone has been trained, everyone is aligned and believes in DevOps, everyone is prepared to do whatever it takes to continuously deliver value. They've even got their products and tools down, as you saw in the first session. So all they need to do is just figure out their process. Now, in order to continuously deliver value, they need a process that is highly iterative, yet still delivers code of high enough quality. And it needs to be highly iterative because they want to have many frequent small releases versus infrequent large releases. This way, they can continuously deliver value. Now, with many small iterations, they also have the ability to course correct really quickly. Now, we don't always know if what we're doing is what the end users really wants or needs. So if we have a lot of small iterations, we can now make a hypothesis, spend, let's say, 2 weeks implementing it, release it to the public, gather telemetry to see if end users really value this new feature. And if they do, hooray for that. We can double down on features like this or even expand upon this feature. And if they don't, not a big deal, because we've only wasted 2 weeks versus months and months and months of dev time. We will just reprioritize the backlog and then rinse and repeat this process. So what kind of a process will let us do this? Agile and the many flavors of Agile. So things like Scrum, Kanban, Agile with a capital A. Now, personally, I'm a massive fan of Scrum. I love Scrum. I'm a Scrum purist, and I've led several successful dev teams using the Scrum methodology. And I'm not saying any of the other flavors of Agile aren't good, because they're all good, they work. But today, we're going to be looking at Scrum. In Scrum, everything starts with your backlog. And what's a backlog? Think of it as a prioritized wish list of everything you want your software to do. So the most important things are at the top, and the least important things sink to the bottom. Now, at the beginning of a sprint or an iteration, the product owner will go ahead and prioritize that backlog. And then the team will commit to doing part of that backlog based on their priority and what they think they can get done. And then they'll spend the sprint working, they'll burn down whatever bugs are found in sprint, and at the end of the sprint, they'll show what they've accomplished to the product owner in a sprint review meeting, and hopefully they'll push into production as well. And based on the sprint review demo, the product owner then will reprioritize that backlog, and this whole cycle can rinse and repeat itself. So that was a super quick description of Scrum. So let's dive in a little bit deeper and look at some general principles. First of all, this is not a waterfall project. We don't build the entire thing and then release it. We build it up incrementally, so sprint after sprint, building the highest priority items on the backlog first. And we do this because this allows the product owner to look at what we're building at the end of every sprint. And when they do, they can now give immediate feedback. So this here is vital. Most of the time, people don't really know what they want their software to do until they start clicking on the buttons. Because you notice how people are super quick to tell us what they didn't like versus what they want their software to do. So by building our software incrementally, we can now have frequent inspections of our software and immediately course correct as needed. So instead of wasting months of work, the worst that could happen is we waste one iteration and then we course correct. So super powerful, super useful. All right, next in Agile or Scrum, everything should be transparent. The dev team, they're not working in a vacuum. The product and sprint backlogs should be public, where everyone can easily see what the team is currently working on and what the team will most likely work on next. Transparency and communication, again, is another key part in Agile and in a DevOps world. Next, I wanted to touch on what makes up a Scrum team, because there's only 3 roles. First, there's the product